Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is Friday, the 13th of June, 11 a.m. Central European Time, and we are back. We had a great evening on Wednesday. The Maple Finance quiz was great. We had some awfully close moments at the very end. I think everybody that came enjoyed the night, and we have another one lined up for you on Wednesday. Next week, we are going to do the Wolf Swap quiz night as well. That is where we talk about all things Wolf Swap. We talk about Compounder, we talk about Wolf Swap, we talk about how it works, and it's not going to be as hard as the Maple Finance quiz. That was really, really hard. This is not going to be too hard. Now, you might have to adjust your volume a little bit. We have our new equipment. We have the Rode Pro mics for when we do the streams from the office. And now we have the Sennheisers for when we stream from home. So this is hopefully going to be a little bit clearer, a little bit more real than the microphones that we were using, but we shall see. A few good mornings to you in chat. Bullish Bull is here, Hidden is here, Charles is here, Alpha Degen is here, and I think that's all I can see from here. We have a poll question, by the way, today. That is very simply, what are we going to do this weekend? Are we going to go down to 103,000? Or are we going to bounce back up to $107,000, $108,000? That's the question. And of course, we can't ignore what happens in the real world, unfortunately. And much as I'd like to sit here and go through everything in the charts and tell you how Bitcoin's going to be at $125,000, the reason we talk about the macro, the reason we say macro environmental effects are worth paying attention to, it's this. You can look at as many charts as you want, and you can look at however many setups as you want, but when things like this happen, they completely take away from TA. There's nothing you can do. What you can do is you can use the TA to give you price points of where we're going to go down to or where we're going to go up to. That is how you can use the TA. But determining where we're going to go and when we're going to go when things like this happen is very, very difficult. Good morning, Danny. I hope you are well. So, new mics, new cameras, haircut. It's almost professional. So what we're going to cover today is, of course, we're going to cover Donald Trump again and Jerome Powell. We're going to talk about Ethereum. We're going to talk about the alts, when the alt season is likely to start. We're going to talk about the next steps for the ETFs. That's coming up. We're going to talk about Polygon. We're going to talk about Polygon, which we haven't talked about in forever. We're also going to talk about Spark, and then we're going to talk about Go Mining, or Gomining, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's Go Mining, but anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to go through the charts. Then we'll look at some X files, and we're going to look at CoinGlass as well to see who got liquidated and for when. So those of you that are just joining us or have never joined us before, make sure to like and follow the channel. Top left-hand corner on your screen, you will see a QR code. That takes you to our YouTube channel. So come and give us a follow over on YouTube. We do stream on Binance 4 times a week now, I think. We do stream on YouTube as well, and the Oracle has a trading show which he forgot to link in chat yesterday, so I'm going to chase him up. He streams I believe Tuesday, Thursday and Saturdays, so I will make sure that we keep an eye on that. So let's go and have a look at the charts then. What's happened with Bitcoin? Not too bad. Almost 105,000 after what's just happened is pretty decent. Volume decent, 170 billion in volume. Bitcoin dominance hasn't really changed, etching up a little bit, nearly at 64%. ETH is getting back towards 10. That was way down towards 7 or 8%, but again, not a lot to talk about. There really isn't an awful lot to show you in the prices today because of what's happened, but we can look at them. ETH holding above $2,500 is not bad. XRP holding on to $2 at $2.13. BNB hasn't really been shooketh. Doesn't really get shooketh, to be honest. Solana coming in at 144. That did take an absolute pounding. That's down almost 10%. if you look at what has been crushed in the last 12 hours, Bitcoin has held on okay. XRP hasn't done too badly. BNB hasn't done too badly. But Ethereum and Solana have been cooked. Why? Personally, my personal opinion is people have longed Ethereum and they've longed Solana a lot more than they've longed XRP and Bitcoin. That's only my opinion. And of course, it doesn't take as much to move Ethereum as Solana as it does to move Bitcoin. Again, a few others down. Tron is doing really well. Cardano back towards 63.5 cents. Hyperliquid back under $40. I think we should probably look at what, if anything, is up. Gold, as you'd expect, is absolutely through the roof. Not a lot. Stable coins are in there. Really not much to talk about. Losers, what's been absolutely hammered right now. SPX 6900, the Oracle has been covering this on his streams, and it's done exceptionally well. It's still up 25% over the last 7 days, even with a 19% dip. The coin that I don't talk about, that is down. OP is down. Bonk, Volt, Lido, Dog with Hat, Pepe, all the meme coins are getting wrecked, as you'd expect. I mean, like I said, these are not days for you to worry, okay? We have seen multiple instances where this has happened in the past. This, if you want to call it this, is a buying opportunity. What's happened is not a result of a breakdown in structure of crypto. It's not a crypto-led event. This is a macro event. So what you can do is you can use this to top up on coins that you may snipe into. You know, Solana down 10%. That's not a bad shout. Ethereum at 2,500 is not a bad shout. Now, of course, it can go a lot lower. But I don't know if you remember, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, we had another similar incident where there were drones sent in the direction of somebody, and that caused the market to wick down. A couple of days later, we were back. So I wouldn't worry too much about the structure of where we are. I don't think this is going to be a prolonged dip, unless it spreads. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is a kind of a shock to the market. Maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon when the market's open in America, maybe there's another dip then. But who knows? Now, this is one of the reasons you don't use leverage. 106, 107,000 yesterday. Everything was looking good. You know, the PPI data, came in? PCI data came in. That was decent. Everybody would have gone long. Look at the 24-hour rect on the right-hand side here. 1.16 billion, of which 1.04 is in longs. The longs were taken out. Now, what happens when the market moves like this is it comes down to a certain level and then orders start to get placed around it. So maybe this afternoon we will see where those liquidity areas are on the heat maps. Maybe it's at 106. Maybe we go back up. Maybe there is another leg down. Maybe 103, 102 again. That's always a possibility. But personally, I would not be looking at longing or shorting the market until we have either a real breakout or a real breakdown. If we go towards 90, 95,000, I would certainly be looking at putting in a long. But we need to see. Apparently a red flag has been raised, so we just need to see where that goes. Right then, let's move on with the X-Files, see where we are. This is probably summed up by the success of our channel. Google search interest in Bitcoin is at the same level as when Bitcoin was at $16,000. That was July 2023. Now, our channel grows in spurts. So we used to grow in the good times at between 30 and 100 subscribers a day in the good times. In the bad times, we grow at 1 or 2 subscribers a day. For the last 2 months, we've had a few days where subscribers have gone up 10, 15. But nobody in retail is looking for crypto. There is no retail here. Whether they come back or not is the question. And people are simply not looking at Bitcoin. Now, maybe, just maybe, Google is no longer the place you go to search for Bitcoin. Maybe you open up your Revolut, your Binance, your Coinbase, your whatever accounts that you've got. Maybe you do that. Maybe the people that are going to be in Bitcoin and crypto, maybe they're already here. Maybe that's why nobody searches for it. What is going to make that spike? For me, very simply, when there is something dramatic happening with Bitcoin. And that could be 200,000, 250,000. It could be the Bitcoin supply on exchanges falling below 2 million. There's going to be a spark that's going to cause the interest. Are we ever going to go back to where we were in 2021? I don't think so. Anyway, let's move on. Now, I've made quite a few videos about Bitcoin yield in the last few months. We've talked about Core, we've talked about Lombard, Bitcoin, the liquid staking token. We talked about what Maple is up to. Obviously, Maple is one of the sponsors of the show. And this is another way of earning yield from Bitcoin without maybe staking your Bitcoin or swapping it to a liquid staking token or having to download a wallet. And that's this. And this is like the convergence of chains, crossing the streams, if you like, in Ghostbusters. And that's Marinade Finance partnering with Zeus, partnering with BTC Sol. And they're kind of three projects that I watch. Marinade Finance with MSOL, they're already now part of some ETFs and ETPs. So the rewards being earned through MSOL are being passed back to retail. You've then got Zeus, who are connecting Solana to Bitcoin, and then you've got BTC Sol, which is the most exciting and newest one, where you stake your Solana and you earn Bitcoin. Now, you won't be earning real Bitcoin. You won't be earning Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain. You'll be earning a wrapped version of Bitcoin, maybe Zeus Bitcoin, maybe WBTC, whatever it might be. But the point of the matter is you can earn Bitcoin from Solana. And all of these things combined are just making the options available to you slightly better. If you've got, for example, 200 Sol, 500 Sol, and you don't want any more Sol, why don't you stake that Sol and earn Bitcoin? I've got enough Solana for what I need for this bull run. Am I going to look at this and maybe stake 10 or 20 Sol in here to earn a little bit of Bitcoin? Maybe I am. But these are the kind of projects which are sexy and exciting on Solana. And you only ever hear about Solana outside of crypto Twitter when people are talking about meme coins and rug pulls and, you know, who else? Iggy Azaleas, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, those kind of things. There's more to Solana than a few rug pulled memes, okay? It is the retail blockchain of choice. So make sure you keep an eye on that. This is pretty big news. We don't know exactly how it's going to work, other than you can stake your MSOL and earn Bitcoin. But I don't really know enough of the details yet. It hasn't really come out. This was only yesterday that it came out. Right, moving very swiftly on. Let's have another X-File. There's only a couple of these to go, and then we'll get into the real news. Now, this, I'm not going to read it all out. It's not a problem. This is something which I think is really quite cool and probably won't be covered in many other places. And that is that drones and the blockchain together can create a kind of medical mesh around the world. And what I mean by that is that if you were to have the supplies all on the blockchain of medical equipment and medical supplies all on the blockchain, and you had a fleet of semi-autonomous drones flying around, you'll be able to deliver goods, supplies to areas from the nearest available place using a fleet of drones. And this is being done in the UK as well. Shopping you know, Tesco's, Waitrose, Asda, those kind of places, they're already looking at having drone hubs for delivery of your shopping. Now, I think it's in Cambridge. You can go out shopping in Cambridge, and there's two things you can do. You can buy all your shopping, get it delivered to this certain place, and they'll arrange a time for it to be delivered to your house. Or you can order something and get a drone to deliver it to your house. So all of these things are in the pipeline, but they're like first world problems. This is something that can be used in really, really important places. If you look at what happened in America when all of the roads were washed away and you couldn't get medical equipment or you couldn't get supplies to people, if you've got a mesh of drones created that covers a certain area and you need to deliver water or medical supplies to a specific spot, that can be achieved. So that's a real world benefit of the blockchain, real-time inventory, real-time drones with AI. It's going to help. Right then, this all happened last night as well when I was trying to put the stream together. This stream has taken me roughly 2 hours to put together because although the blockchain is great, the blockchain is decentralized, it doesn't really have a single point of failure that much. Cloudflare is a single point of failure even for Web3 projects, and the reason is that Cloudflare, you have to go through Cloudflare, I'm not going to say that word again, by CF checks all around. I was trying to get onto a few different places to get articles, couldn't get them. It took me forever. Everything was down. But, of course, this is a great opportunity for Walrus and everybody else to come out and say, you know what? We don't go down because we're a blockchain and we're decentralized. You know what? And I will agree with that. And Cloudflare was the problem for me last night. I couldn't get onto anything. It was an absolute nightmare. But what are the benefits of, why haven't Google, why haven't Microsoft, why haven't they started to look more and more at this decentralized approach? There are, of course, domain attacks. That makes it very difficult to be decentralized because you take the domain down, you got a problem. So there are a few sticky things there. Right then, 4.4 million wallets now hold 0.1 Bitcoin, despite the price swings. The number of wallets holding Bitcoin just keeps climbing. Now, 0.1 Bitcoin as of today is about $10,000. 4.4 million people hold 0.1 Bitcoin. There are, let's say, 2 billion people on the planet that will ever buy Bitcoin. So 1 in 4. 1 in 4 people on the planet buy Bitcoin, which is 2 billion. You've got 4.4 billion holding 0.1. Or more than 0.1, sorry. It doesn't take a genius to realize how few Bitcoin there are in the world and how, as every day, every hour, every week goes by, the BlackRocks, the Sailors, the Metaplanets, Metaplex, what's the other one that's starting to buy? GameStop. They're all buying Bitcoin. There's going to come a point where there is no Bitcoin left. And 4.4 is nowhere near enough. 4.4 million is nowhere near enough individuals holding Bitcoin for it not to all end up in the hands of a select few, which is sad. Inevitable, but sad. And that is why I tell you, please don't sell your Bitcoin. Hold on to your Bitcoin. You can sell everything else. If Ethereum goes to $6,000 and you bought it at $1,500 and you forexed, take some profits or sell it all. Same with XRP, same with Cardano, same with Solana. But Bitcoin is a different kettle of fish. Now then, there they are, the two men of the moment, Jerome Powell and Donald Trump. Bitcoin dips and Trump calls Jerome Powell a numbskull. Another inflation indicator, the PPI, came in lower than expected for May, prompting a verbal assault on Jerome Powell by the president as Bitcoin shed 1%. Trump roasts Jerome as Bitcoin drops. We're going to spend $600 billion a year because of one numbskull. Those are the words of US President Donald Trump on Thursday as Powell was not for cutting rates. Now, what's he talking about? Of course, he's talking about the interest paid on the debt. Cut the interest rate, cut the interest payments on debt. That's what he's referring to. So the PPI measures the commercial or wholesale level of inflation, and it's not as important as CPI as such, but it's before CPI. So it's what it costs to make things before it gets to the shelves. So it's coming down as well. All of these things, for me, indicate a rate cut is due. It's just not due next week. Next Wednesday, the 18th, that is the Fed meeting, and that's the announcement. There'll be no rate cuts in June. I can pretty much guarantee it. Powell has said no rate cuts. The odds show no rate cuts. There will be no rate cuts. We've got inflation under control, Trump said. If we cut our interest by 1 point, we save $300 billion, he added, referencing how much the federal government would save in interest payments on the outstanding debt. If we cut by 2 points, we save $600 billion. The president made the remarks at the White House when he signed a bill terminating California's EV mandate. So again, this is a war of words between Trump and Powell. And when I say war of words, it's pretty much going in one direction at this moment in time, and that is Trump towards Powell. But Powell is holding firm. Now, you look at that chart there, the one thing that chart says to me is lower high and lower lows. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we put in a higher low. We did come down to, I think, 103,000 on Bitcoin, but we didn't retest the previous all-time high. So I'm still fairly bullish for June, but I don't think we should be too bullish going into July and August, because traditionally we do come down in the summer months. But anyway, we're going to get rate cuts. They're going to happen this year. We were going to get 3. I think now we're going to get 2 rate cuts. That brings us down to maybe 3.5, 3.75, something like that, from 4.25. So again, just hold on to your hats. Europe is cutting rates. The UK is cutting rates, but they're far smaller economies. That's something else to bear in mind. It takes a good 6 months for rate cuts and rate rises to actually take effect in America. Now then, let us move on. I was going to have a bit of a disagreement with somebody on Twitter yesterday about this, and it just wasn't worth my while. Ethereum extends lead over Solana as DeFi dominance and capital inflows surge. There are many people who want to take a dig at Ethereum, and I have pretty much stood by and defended Ethereum on here basically to you guys for 2 years, and there's one very simple reason for that. I don't hold that much Ethereum, but what I do hold, I hold because of the value that I think Ethereum has in it. The TVL, the people coming to Ethereum, it's all there. Just because the price action hasn't reflected it doesn't make Ethereum a bad project. I made a video 2 days ago about and Mantra, which quite a few people have watched so far. Good feedback on it. The success of a project is not directly correlated to the success of its token. That's something you need to bear in mind. Star Atlas will be one of the best Web3 games, if not the best Web3 game that has ever existed. The token, however, is down 99%. So the token doesn't reflect the project. Ethereum's price action at this moment in time does not reflect the not optimism, the capabilities that Ethereum has to change finance is above and beyond anything that any other chain has the ability to do. If you're talking about disruptive technology, whether it be Spotify, whether it be the internet, Ethereum is currently the Web3 disruptor. Bitcoin has become probably the second greatest store of value the world has ever seen. We know about Bitcoin, but Ethereum in the next 2 or 3 years is going to be the focal point for traditional finance, coupled with, of course, XRP, things like that. Of course, stable coins are involved. But Ethereum is not to be looked down upon. Recent market trends paints a vivid picture of Ethereum's ascendancy. Over the past month, ETH has surged by an impressive 10%, while Sol has faltered. This divergence highlights a clear preference amongst traders who are gravitating towards Ethereum's robust ecosystem. The DeFi sector, a cornerstone of Ethereum's dominance, has been a key catalyst in this shift. Over the past week, DeFi has surged by 12.5%, outpacing other sectors bolstered Ethereum's ecosystem, which bolstered the TVL. Anyway, we don't need to go through the exact numbers. The point of the matter is that people are now starting to pick up on Ethereum. We know about the ETFs, 15 days of inflows, probably yesterday and today isn't going to be an inflow, but that's not the point, 15 days. Solana, I wouldn't say is lagging. What I would say at this moment in time is that liquidity can move from chain to chain. Investors move from chain to chain. If they're in Solana and they believe Ethereum is likely to move a lot higher, they'll move to Ethereum. And then when Ethereum tops out, they'll move back to Solana and the narrative will change. The narrative at the minute is with Ethereum. And Vitalik, give him his due, has done a really good job of turning things around. Even though there is complete chaos when it comes to the leadership of Ethereum, they're still doing a good job. People want perfection and they want it yesterday. Perfection will never happen, and being close to perfection will take years. When he said that Ethereum will probably never reach the end of its roadmap, people laughed at him. How many projects have ever reached the end of a roadmap? Microsoft Windows started in what? 2000? No, before 2002, 1993. And we've got Windows versions being released every few years. I don't think Microsoft has ever reached the end of its roadmap. So don't expect a software or a technology to ever get to the point where it says, right, we're done. It's an ever evolving, ever reacting, organic blockchain. So is Solana, by the way, but Ethereum is still going on. Now, again, I'm not going to suddenly become bullish on Ethereum because I've always stood by Ethereum. I'm not going to stop being bullish on Solana because I'm always going to believe in Solana. What I would say to you is you should have some of each. Have some Ethereum, have some Solana. Even at $2,500, it could go to $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. Solana is at $155. It's probably not going to go higher than $600 to $1,000 at the end of this bull run. So that's what I would say. Just give me 1 second. Hello, I am back. I do apologise. There was somebody at the door. Let me make sure my camera's still on me. Yeah, so basically, I would go as far as to say that Ethereum and Solana should both be in your portfolio. Give me 1 second. I've left my door open now. Okay. There we go. All sorted. Right then. Where am I? Okay, here's the exact date altcoin season could start according to history. Now again, I don't necessarily agree with everything that I read out, but I try and give you some external views. And if I agree with it, I agree with it. If I don't agree with it, I'll tell you. Now, again, when anybody says, here's the exact date anything is going to happen, take all of that with a pinch of salt. It doesn't mean anything. It's absolute nonsense, okay? It's clickbait, basically. But let's go through this. Let me just catch up on my stream so I know where I am. Okay, then. The altcoin market may be approaching a critical inflection point, with analysts pointing to recurring chart patterns that preceded past explosive rallies. Historical data shows that each major alt season followed a similar consolidation structure before launching into a multi-1,000% surge in market cap. According to the chart analysis shared by traders like Merlin, the trader, I've never heard of him. The current setup mirrors those in previous bull runs. Now then, what I would say here is there are patterns and they do rhyme, but not necessarily they're not precise. However, I've always said that the markets will go up in October, and the last few years they've gone up in October. Now, if you go back and look at the bear market of 2023, when was the bottom in 2023? It was in June. So could they be correct? Probably. They could be correct. Do I think they're going to be correct? I don't know. Time will tell. But what I would not say is I would not give a precise date. I would give a period of time. Now, what I have said is that I thought we would hit an all-time high in May, and we didn't. We hit it in June. So I was out by a couple of weeks. I've also said that we're going to go through a bit of a lull back below $100,000 probably in July and August. Maybe going into September. Then we will then have our October, November run up, maybe 150,000 for Bitcoin, maybe 140,000 for Bitcoin, whatever. But that is the kind of pattern that I see. Now they're saying that we're going to hit a bottom on June the 15th. Now, what could possibly hit us on June the 15th? Well, we've just seen what's going on in the world right now, and it's Friday the 13th, June the 13th. So 2 more days of what's going on could push us down to $95,000, $92,000, $97,000. That could potentially be a bottom. I'm not going to disagree with that. Not going to disagree with that at all. We've covered this altcoin market cap quite a lot on here, and the total market cap is doing a lot better than the altcoin market cap, simply because Bitcoin dominance is so high, which we've covered. But we have seen the green shoots of Ethereum. Ethereum's gone up $800, 50% in the while. So much as I am against agreeing with these kinds of predictions, there is always going to be validity in looking at them and saying, well, technically, June the 15th appears to be the period of time where we bottom. Now, could we see alts bottoming in the next 3 or 4 days? If Bitcoin does come down to 98,000, alts are going to get wrecked. You know, you can look at Crow is a great example. Great news came out about Crow. It got up towards 10.5 cents. Now it's back at 9 cents. It could go to 8 cents today or tomorrow. That's probably a bottom for Crow before we move up. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Crow's going to go to $1. I think it might go to 60 cents, and that would be great. If we do get an incredible bull run, then of course it can go somewhere near $1. But I think we should look at for 60 cents for that. Alts are wrecked. Very few alts have survived this bear market. And technically, we've been in a bear market since January for alts. That was the last time we had highs. So again, it's worth looking at that and saying, you know what, probably right, probably accurate. Anyway, let's move on. I don't want to run out of time today. I'd want to get through all of the news. And the last few days, I've either overrun dramatically or I've been 5 minutes early. There's no in between. So we're going to try and finish dead on 12 today and see where we are. Remember, if you're in chat, I'm keeping an eye on chat. If you're in chat, say hello, give me a wave. Obviously, smash the like button. Let me know what you're up to. And let's carry on. Right, the SEC delays next steps for Dogecoin, Hedera, and Avalanche ETF filings. Now, this is a pretty big one. We don't need to go into the details of this because the details aren't important. What's important is to understand most of these are not if but whens. Not if they get approved and they go live, but when. Now, there has been a lot of chatter on X with the SEC and the likes of Eric Balchunas, the likes of Seifert, and of course, Eleanor, one of my favourite, Eleanor Terrett, talking about these things. And the SEC are going to start to basically just approve ETFs. What happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum was that both of them had all of the ETFs approved in one go. So nobody got a competitive advantage. So VanEck and BlackRock and ARK Invest, they all got approvals on day one. And people are turning around and saying, listen, this is BS. This is nonsense. If I approve in July and you agree to it in August, I want to go live in November. And you're turning around and saying, well, BlackRock didn't apply till September, October, so you're all going to go live on February. Even though you applied 2 or 3 months earlier, we're going to put you all live at the same time. So there's talk about that happening. Now, also that we haven't covered on this show is Solana. The Solana ETFs have been asking for their S1s to be submitted. That's normally a precursor to a go live. Okay? Now, if we're talking about alt season, if we're talking about how are alts going to reclaim any of the lost dominance to Bitcoin, I think it's going to be a run on ETFs. We know that Ethereum staking is coming. We also know once Ethereum staking is approved, Solana is going to go through the roof because Solana staking will pretty much be approved. It's not Ethereum staking that's being approved. It's the concept of proof of stake rewards being approved. And the SEC have already come out and said that staking rewards are not securities. So that's something to bear in mind. So Solana is going to go through the roof. XRP is going to be approved probably at the same time or not far off Solana. Maybe because of what Brad did with Donald. Donald's going to kick him into touch for a few weeks, whatever it might be. But we'll get a Solana and an XRP ETF. Then, what happens after that? When the Bitcoin ETF went live, what did I say? Great, put it to bed, now get the Ethereum ETF. When the Solana and the XRP ETFs are approved and live, let's move on. The one not mentioned here is Litecoin, by the way. Litecoin should be approved because it's proof of work. It's very similar to Bitcoin. So for me, Litecoin would be next. And then you've got Dogecoin, throw it in the bin. Hedera, maybe. Avalanche, maybe. But the question is, what's the point of a Hedera or an Avalanche ETF? What's it going to do? What value is it going to bring? I think once we get the top 5 done, that's it. I think the rest of them are going to be diminishing returns. But I do think the Solana and the XRP ETFs are really, really important. So the SEC have delayed them. We don't care about the delay. What we care about is the timescales on when they're going to be approved. I don't see any of them being approved this year because we've only got 6 months left. But I do think we'll get Solana and XRP. And I would like to see Litecoin in there as well. Absolutely. I don't see why not. Litecoin should have an ETF, in my humble opinion. Does ADA have one? That is a very good question. No, ADA does not have one yet. I have seen a couple of people applying for an ADA ETF, and there will eventually be an ADA ETF. And if ADA can tap into the Bitcoin ecosystem and become a DeFi layer of Bitcoin, then ADA is going to do incredibly well. Absolutely. Honestly, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I made a video. I said ADA and XRP would both go to $3 to $5. And at this moment in time, I stand by that. But when the ETFs go live, if the institutional demand is there for XRP, it's going to go north of $5 to maybe $7. If ADA gets Bitcoin wrapped in a way which is safe and secure, and you can pay for transactions in ADA and you can stake your Bitcoin, whatever they do, then ADA is going to go north of $5. But for now, it hasn't done that. So $3 to $5 for ADA for me is definitely on the cards. Now then, one of the tokens that's in our $15,000 portfolio, and it's only a small amount, is Polygon. And Polygon has been trash. It's been trash. I've gone over the reasons many times why Polygon has basically been trash, and that is they came out with all of their good news in June and July 2023 in the bear market. All of the partnerships they did with Disney, all the partnerships they did with Starbucks and everybody else, which were really good partnerships, they were all launched in the bear market. Okay? The marketing department should have been sacked, in my opinion. Now, Sandeep has come out and basically sacked everybody, and he's taken over. And he's targeted 100,000 transaction TPS. That's what his goal is. And that, I think he's aimed for, not quite by the end of the year, but this is the important thing. Okay? Now, Polygon POS will be integrated with the AG layer by the end of 2025 to build an ecosystem where money, assets, and verified data can move globally seamlessly. So, you've heard of Chainlink and CCIP, where you can have assets going across different chains. That's kind of what the AG layer does, and it uses POL as its gas fees. Now, this is one of the best bits of kit in terms of technology that I read into, and I really, really liked it. But the execution has been absolutely abysmal. Execution has been shocking. So Polygon, tech 9, implementation and execution 0. It's that bad. Now, Sandeep has come along and basically said, we're going to sort this out. This is an absolute disaster. And I think they've got rid of the DAO. They've got rid of pretty much most of the organization layers. He said, I am the captain of the ship now, Irish, and he is in charge. Good. That's what I say. You need a Sandeep. Believe it or not, I'm going to say this. You're going to need a Vitalik. You need an Anatoly. You even need a Michael Saylor for Bitcoin, to some respects. And you need a Charles Hoskinson. You need a figure point. I don't care how decentralized your blockchain is. I don't care if you've got 25,000 validators across the world. You need a head. Okay? Cut a chicken off a steak. It'll probably cut the head of a chicken off, and it will still run around for 2 weeks. It doesn't mean it's got direction or clarity of thought. So, we've got to kind of sort out Polygon. And I am still a fan of Polygon. I've been a fan of Polygon for 5 years. I think it's great. He needs to take over. Polygon token is now available on the Solana network through the Wormhole's native token transfers. That says all you need to know about Solana. Polygon is a layer 2 on Ethereum. Where is the first logical step for them to go? Solana. After that, maybe XRP, maybe Cardano, yes. But certainly Solana has to be the first port of call. So, will these changes yield the necessary results for the Polygon Foundation? I think time will tell. I'm not going to read any of this out because it's all conjecture. I think Polygon needs to sort out its structure, and it needs to sort out its direction, and it needs to come forward with a plan. I berated Vitalik on here, and somebody said, stay in your lane. Okay? I berated him. And then weeks later, everybody else was berating him on X. I'm not saying I was the first person to do it, and I certainly won't be the last. What did he do? He came forward with a roadmap and clarity of thought. Sandeep needs time to come forward with the roadmap and the clarity of thought. That's just what has to happen. And he will probably lead them from the forest into the golden lands of whatever. Right then, let's move on. So again, what do I think it will do to the price of the token? Who knows? We need to see what it says first. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to go to $2 and $3 because we don't know what's going to happen. We need to see some action. Look at what Crongy has done to Sonic, or Phantom, sorry. Look what he's done. And then go back and find out how long it took him to do it. 6 months? 12 months? It might not be perfect, and it might be short-lived, but he put new life into that project very, very quickly. And we need Sandeep to do the same thing. Right then, let's move on very quickly. How long do we have left? Let me check on times. Paul is my first buy in crypto. Really? I think my first buy was Bitcoin in 2016 or 2017. Good morning, Tariq. I hope you are well. And Kishan, good morning to you, sir. I hope you are well. Now then, we know about Spark from our dealings with other projects. Spark Protocol, TVL surges past 8.5 billion fueled by airdrop frenzy. Spark's TVL has more than doubled since April ahead of the upcoming SPK token airdrop. There we go. There's a nice AI generated graphic of people. I don't actually know. Is that supposed to be Planet of the Apes? I don't know what that is. Anyway, they've announced details of an up-and-coming token airdrop accelerating a surge in activity. Spark is a decentralized DeFi platform that utilizes Sky, which was, of course, MakerDAO. We covered that some time ago. 6.5 billion stablecoin reserves to provide liquidity across DeFi, centralized platforms, and real-world assets. The TVL increased 114% from 3.5 to 7.5 in a couple of months, according to DeFi Llama. The airdrop announcement has pushed it to 8.5, almost 8.6 billion. As a protocol, it combines three products: Spark Savings, where they earn interest, Spark Lend, and USDS at a fixed rate. Now, how do we know about Spark? Because Spark invested, was it 1 billion initially into, was it 1 billion or 100 million they invested into Maple's products? And then the yield from that, they're going to be paying out to people. Now, I said this about Celestia, and I will say the same thing now. If your product and the success of your product is based on airdrop farming, it will be short-lived. Celestia went to $20 and everybody was buying Celestia to stake it, to get the airdrops. The airdrop came and then went, and then so did the users. They left. Spark isn't quite like that. Spark does have some really good products. We looked at them when we were looking at them for Maple. They're a really good company. It's a really good product. What I would hope is that some of the value generated by this airdrop stays within the Spark protocol. But with these types of airdrops, expect the price to absolutely plummet, because that's what they kind of do. And then maybe if you believe in the project, you pick them up. But as a product, if we look at the product is very, very good. The USDS and Sparkland, we looked at them in particular for Maple. Well, we didn't look at them for Maple Finance. We looked at them because they were partnered with Maple Finance. Very, very good products. But again, of this 8.6 billion in TVL, I'd expect that to be below 5 billion once the airdrops happened. I don't think it's going to hold its value. Not because it's not a great project. I'll refer to what I said earlier, which is a great project doesn't necessarily mean great price action. If the tokenomics are wrong, you can have the best product in the world, but the price of the token won't go up. Look at Dupe. Dupe is at 45 cents. That is a $1.50 token all day long. So why is the price performing so badly? Number one, you could argue there's emissions in there. Maybe people are selling to fund the projects that they're building. Yes. You could also argue it has something to do with the Libra fiasco with Meteora, where Meow and the CEO of Meteora actually stepped down. You could say it's, reputational damage. You could say there's too many in circulation. There's loads of things you could say about why Dupe hasn't been a massive success and gone up above $1.50. But the fundamentals of the company, it's a money-making business. Spark is a solid project. The video I made about Mantra yesterday, which, believe it or not, hasn't got me a lot of heat. I thought people were going to be really, really mad. If a token crashes 95% and it's not a result of the performance of the company, should you change your opinion on the performance of the company? Of course not. So you stick to your morals. That's why I still like Polygon, because the project is sound, Sandeep is sound, but the token doesn't reflect that. If Spark's token goes live and it goes on to be worth billions, brilliant. Fantastic. If there is a way for you to stake it and earn a yield off it, brilliant. If there is a profit share for the token, brilliant. But I just think when you airdrop to a lot of people who are only there for the airdrop, they will sell the token extract their value and go to the next airdrop. And that's why I think if they can keep half of the people that have gone there, fantastic. Right, let's move on very quickly to the last article. I got some poll myself. I'm counting on your luck here. You know what? I'm counting on Danny. I think we should all have Danny in our back pockets. The thoughts of Danny in our back pockets. Maybe even a signed picture of Danny in our back pockets on the proviso that him and Mary are lucky. Because I want to see Paul back. I mean, I remember when he was at 80 and 90 cents. And now, I don't know what it is today. 25, 20 cents, 30 cents, something like that. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Right then. Go Mining wants to make Bitcoin mining liquid, tradable, and rig-free. Mining doesn't have to be physical. Go Mining's NFT miners offer real hash power, live market trading, and energy discounts, all powered by a deflationary token. Here's a question for you with a deflationary token. What happens when you run out of tokens? Anyway, Go Mining lets users mine Bitcoin without ever touching a rig. Instead of buying physical hardware, they purchase digital miners, NFTs backed by real hash power from the Go Mining data centers. Each miner is unique, customizable, efficient, and fully owned on-chain. I thought this was quite a nice end of a Friday stream article, because everybody should be looking to kind of maximize their gains. And one of the big things for me is, you can go and spend $3,000 on an online miner, Bitcoin miner, and it might make you $200 or $300 a month for a year. So let's say it aims to make you $3,600 in a year. Would you not be better just buying $3,000 worth of Bitcoin? And that's always been the reason why I never went down the Bitcoin mining point of view. I mined Ethereum for about a year. I mined Litecoin for about 18 months. And the Ethereum miner was massively profitable at the time until they changed the rules so you couldn't use GPUs. But I mined Ethereum. It did really well for me. I was making about 100% profit. The miner cost me X. And by the time the miner came offline, I had X times 2. So I made 100% profit. My Litecoin miner, I think, did the same thing. Bitcoin is a totally different kettle of fish. The difficulty is so much higher that I've never seen the value in doing it. But we'll take you through it. By using NFTs rather than traditional tokens, it gives miners the ability to upgrade, trade, and scale their assets, transforming what was once a static process into something dynamic and liquid. Most people think NFTs, they think it's a JPEG, said Jeremy. It's the underlying tech that allows each individual miner to have ownership over a specific amount of hash power, and every miner is unique. Miners vary in power, ranging from 1 to 5,000 terahash, and users can choose between different energy efficiency levels. I wouldn't be looking at efficiency levels at this point. I'd be looking to maximize my return. The best tech to represent that is a tokenized form of an NFT. Now, again, I like this. I don't think it's necessarily world-changing, but I like this. Go Mining isn't relying on NFTs. The company also operates a utility token that powers the ecosystem, offering users discounts, upgrades, and access to a peer-to-peer miner marketplace. When users pay for power and maintenance with the Go Mining token, they can get up to 20% discount. They can also use it to upgrade their miners and make them more efficient over time. Again, a great way to add buy pressure to your token. The key is buy pressure with every token. The airdrop of Spark tokens, think of it this way. If you airdrop 1 billion tokens, who's going to buy them? If you have a game, a tappy tap game on your mobile phone, and it's just giving you tokens and tokens and tokens and tokens, and there's no reason for you to spend those tokens, who's going to buy those tokens off you? A select few. There's no demand. The price will crash. You've seen it with every single tap to earn game, which is why I tell you to sell those tokens straight away. Now, this is different. If you have to buy these tokens to upgrade, and those tokens fall in value, then it actually makes it worthwhile upgrading. buy the tokens now while they're really, really cheap, and then get your upgrade, and maybe $100 worth of tokens will actually give you $200 in return on your miner. So there's a real ecosystem concept behind this that I like. It just needs uptake. You're not reliant on hardware anymore. It opens up a whole new model with deflationary tokenomics and NFTs as digital hardware. Go mining is merging DeFi. Anyway, we're going to go off into the spiel about that. We don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's get rid of all of this and go full screen for the last few minutes. We've got 5 minutes left, which I think is great. Give me 1 minute. Polyswarm. I'll have a look at that for the next stream. I'm not sure. Right, there we go. Got rid of that. Full screen. Okay, I am back. We've got 4 minutes left. We've managed to nail it pretty well today. Overall, I'll recap what I said at the beginning. Tariq and a few people got here after I started. The reason you don't look at charts, and only charts, is because things like this happen. And you can never be too sure that your tokens are going to survive anything like this. Now, it's not a problem with the market. It's not a problem with the economy. This is a shock. And shocks take a little bit of time to recover. It's like somebody jumping out of a dark alley and shouting boo. Gives you a shock. You get over it, you keep walking, but your heart is still pounding. The markets are going to be in shock today and tomorrow. Maybe Sunday we see a recovery. Maybe we see a recovery today, depending on what happens later on today. So it's not a market shaker in terms of it's not something that's in the market, it's going to cause problems. It's something external. They happen from time to time. The biggest one, of course, recently was the tariffs. The tariffs caused a massive crash. But we recovered. And we're going to recover again. We've hardly come down. What are we at? Nearly 105,000. The market has recovered, pretty much. I've been saying all along, I want us to stay above $103,000. That is my goal. 103,000. Now, I believe we came down to 102,950. So we bounced off that 103 line beautifully. Hold it, use that as support, move on up. The poll question I have asked today in chat was, where are we going to go? 60% of you think we're going to go to 103,000. Only 40% think we're going to go up. Again, I don't necessarily think we're going to go much higher than 107. I don't think we're going to go much lower than 103. But we're going to see more fallout from what's just happened. I think we're going to see a second event, let's call it that. But we don't know when and we don't know where, and that might spook the markets for today. And unless somebody brokers some kind of like arrangement, I don't know. But I think we're going to see a little bit more shakeout. I don't think we're going to get contagion either. I don't think we're going to see too much contagion. So I think all in all, this is not something to worry about. The markets are going to recover. They've recovered every time since. Does it stop us from having another all-time high before we get to July? Possibly. Yep, that is true. That is true. But the question then is, you have to ask yourself, how long is it going to go on for? The last time this happened, it was over in a few days. 4 days. Was it 5 days? How long is this one going to go on for? Is it going to escalate, or is it just going to be over in a matter of days? That's the question to ask. And it all depends on the next 48 hours, I think. But the markets have not done too badly. Now, again, this could be the end of the pre-summer bull run. We could go on now through July and August and do nothing. September we come even lower, and then we have the October, November. This could stunt the June all-time high, but I don't know. Anyway, the other thing to mention is we had our quiz night on Wednesday. Brilliant quiz night. Didn't get too many people playing it, which was a massive shame. We tried to get people involved. Loads of people said they were going to show up, and we got the regulars. Tariq was here. Danny was here. But the new people that should have been turning up, nobody showed up. But we're going to do it again because God loves a trier, and we are very trying. And we're going to do Wolf Swap on Wednesday. Same format. We're not going to replace all of our specials with the quiz, by the way. That's not going to happen. But we have a cycle of people that we're going to do these for. So we've done one for Maple. We're going to do one for Wolf Swap. I think we did a normal one to test it out. That worked. And then next week, after next week, we're going to have the Mew one. So we are going to have 3 quizzes on the trot. But then we might slow that down, go back to some actual reviews of articles and charts and things like that, and then maybe put a quiz on the end. So we're not going to do away with our specials, but we are going to have the quizzes until they are perfect. Anyway, one other thing before I go. How has the sound been in chat? Has this microphone been a little bit louder, a little bit clearer? Has it been easier to follow me compared to the previous microphones? Or is there absolutely no difference? The only difference for me, of course, is that the screen that I'm looking at has the bar here. And the thing with this bar is I have to have it in this position, otherwise the virtual background doesn't work. So I've got to have it here. But is it clearer? If that's the case, then I'm happy. Anyway, have a great weekend. It is Friday. I am going to make some videos over the weekend. I've made an OG video yesterday, which I put up. And I am probably going to make another couple of videos this weekend. The Chronos Pulse I'm going to do for Sunday. A few other things I'm going to get done. And then basically try and have a nice weekend. So, have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Love you all dearly. Hope you're all safe. And I will see you all on Monday. Oh, before I forget, Tariq, I'm going to drop the Oracle's link to his trading streams into Telegram later. I forgot. And before I also forget, Hidden Agendas, Tariq, and was it Mary or Danny who won? I'm going to send you your money today. That's a promise. And I'm probably going to send it you in Syrup USDC. So, yeah, you're going to get it today anyway. Right, have a good weekend, everybody. See you all on Monday. Bye-bye.